The opening words were written by William Stafford. The way it was. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread.
I see some young people, and I see some people who always say, I wish I went up front. Well, here's your chance. You can always come up front. No one likes sitting in the front row, but who doesn't love sitting on the ground in the front? If you want to come forward, especially if it's near your birthday, or if your birthday is today or nearby, I'm not going to point anyone out, but I think there's a little boy over here. That's his birthday. So today, and hello, young man. So it is so good to see you all. Today, our Wonder Box is called Yellowwood State Forest off Goeller Boulevard. Contradiction? Who knows where Yellowwood State Forest is? Where is that? It's over in Brown County. Has anyone been to Yellowwood State Forest? I've been only like once, but it's so beautiful. So, what? Goeller Boulevard, that's our street. Well, let's see what's in the Wonder Box. Anyone want to open it? Yes. Okay, push it from the bottom. There you go. From the bottom. Here you go. Okay. Oh, what? What is that? You want to pick it up? Oh, thank you. It's time for lunch. You want to hold it up for everyone to see? Oh, what is this?
A fork.
A fork. You can go sit down. It is a fork. Why do I have this fork? Oh, it reminds me of a poem about another Yellowwood. Maybe you know this one. Robert Frost, for our English majors out there. There was, I don't even know how it starts, but there was the Yellowwood, right? My first Sunday here ever, August 6th, 2017. Bob and I led the service from right here, and we used the Robert Frost poem. And in it, there was a Yellowwood. And what is the Yellowwood? What does Robert Frost come upon in the Yellowwood? A fork in the wood, or at least two paths. And what did Robert Frost have to do? Throw it out. No, yeah, I know. Turn around, go home. Who cares? I like that thinking. No, he had to pick a path. So sometimes a fork is used as a metaphor, an image of a fork in the road. And you have to pick the left path or the right path. And sometimes people put a lot of stock in which path you take. I like to say more adventure. Either one's a little more a little more difficult, one's easier, but which one is more adventurous, that's for you to decide. Coming to UUCCI is kind of like coming to any fork in the road or Yellowwood State Forest or really any beautiful place. You probably have other places you like to go. Yellowwood's not the only thing out there. What's some other places you like to go? Anyone? Yes? The pool, that's great. There's some extended imagery. Chuck E. Cheese. Okay, let's get to we're getting back to the natural. Maybe a lake or maybe a place you can play games out in a field. Yes? Brown County State Park. Any other places you go on paths or walks? Which one? Sycamore Land Trust. Shout out to Sycamore Land Trust. Absolutely. There is a nice path out here in the woods maintained by our building and grounds team and more volunteers yet to volunteer. That would be great. We have beautiful places. Yes?
There's like a shipping container right after it is a path, and it has mulberry bushes.
That's beautiful. That's a place you know about? Well, you gotta tell us where that is so we can go get that sometime. Oh, nice. Great. So there's lots of paths that we take in life, and somehow all of you, taking the left path, the right path, all the different paths, came here. How did you show up here? Well, maybe your parents brought you. Maybe a partner brought you. Maybe your own inner wisdom said, I'm going to look into community today. You might have been coming for a long time, or this might be your first Sunday, but you're like, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to check it out and see what's going on here today. Every time you choose, whatever path it is you choose, the left, the right, in a forest or in how you spend your mornings, is an important choice. And I think it's important whether you're a little kid and you feel like you maybe don't have all the choice in the world, and when you're an adult and you have a lot more power to choose where you go. But I'm so glad and so excited that you all have chosen here this morning. Here's just a couple more seconds before I send kids out to their classes. Why did you choose to come here this morning? You can just shout it out and I'll repeat it. Why are you here? You like it here? Your friends are here? Anyone else have a friend or hope they make a friend here? And no one else has friends here? Oh, okay, Amy does. Okay, good. Other reasons people are here? Yeah? I like the food here. You like the food? Rock on, yeah. Compliments to the cooking. Yep. You like the music? All right, yes? You like me talking? Oh, my topic. I thought you just like hearing my voice. The topics are what's really good, yes. Don't let the messenger get in the way of the message. That's what they always taught us. Any other reasons people show up here? Community, yeah. The crafts are fun. Art. The positivity, yes. We don't get all that positivity everywhere we go. Any other reasons people show up? Open-mindedness, that's a good one. Meet people who might accept you for who you are and maybe practice that, accepting others. Any other reasons? Did we hit them all? I don't think so. You want to feel strong, like you have a voice? Anyone find their voice here? To be more courageous in the world? Maybe take some risks out there. Yep. Search for truth. You're not done? No, we're always learning. Lifelong learners. Listen to Adrian. She'll tell you. Any other reasons people are here today? Inspiration. Great. And seeing friends old and new. Yep. It's okay to ask questions and not have all the answers. I literally say that in my sermon, that I don't have all the answers. So here's the thing. You might already have your answer prepared. Why am I here today? And it's okay if you have no idea why you're here today. Or even if you're second guessing it. What the heck am I doing here? But you know what also might happen is you might come to have an answer the longer you're here today. And every time you come, new answers emerge, and that's what's beautiful. So whatever path you take, it's a false fork. Okay, you get one life, and I'm so glad you're sharing some of that with us here at UUCCI and making it a more loving, welcoming, inspiring, musical place every day. We'll sing our children and youth off to their classes today with these words, if you'll join me.
Why do I choose UUCCI as my spiritual community? When I wrote my tapestry story last month, I realized just how much I value this community, and I feel safe here while being challenged to grow spiritually. In this time of political fascism and climate disaster, I value our congregation for exponentially expanding my social justice efforts because I'm not working alone for change. When my mother was growing up, her fire and brimstone church and her father had rigid ideas about gender roles. My mother's father voiced that education for women was a waste. Luckily, my grandmother spoke up and saved for her daughter's higher education. My mother walked so that I could run. I grew up in a more progressive church and learned about activism in my youth group. My parents installed in my sister and me that we would both go to college. When I attended Earlham, I enrolled in women's studies classes and learned about women using their voices against patriarchy. My first career field was outdoor education, and I strove for gender equity. I strove for gender equity by deliberately alternating between the kids when calling upon the students. During campfires, my stories were non-stereotypical, I'd like to think. The thread of gender equity and the value of education weave throughout my life. As a lifelong learner, I often chose groups at UUCCI that exposed me to new ideas and challenged my assumptions. For example, I attend the women's group, choir, the Deaf Cafe discussions, and the Bold Speakers series. My understanding of racial oppression has deepened by participating in UUCCI activities. Because of these opportunities, I believe that social justice work is central to our Unitarian Universalist identity. My years as an outdoor educator also guided my choice of activities here. First of all, I aim to foster a welcoming and inclusive space for our youth. I have volunteered for our religious education classes and Peace Camp, as many others here have. I also became a trained facilitator for Our Whole Lives, nicknamed OWL. OWL is a science-based class which teaches students to explore their values regarding healthy human relationships and sexual activity. They learn about boundaries, consent, birth control, and so much more. As we are losing the progress we've made in women's rights, trans rights, and access to health care, these threats make OWL even more important than ever. Every UU friend and member has a different spiritual journey. I want to encourage you to support our children and youth. You can volunteer to help Adrian with religious education, or you could stop at our booth while attending Columbus Pride Festival on September 12th, or you could become an OWL facilitator. The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. The voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. So the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to shine through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
"15 years ago, on the heels of graduating from DePaul University in Chicago, I was preparing to start my first year of seminary. Moving from the north side of Chicago to Hyde Park on the south side, I was about to embark on a new chapter of my journey to become a Unitarian Universalist minister, a journey that began to unfold within me and before me several years earlier when I myself was about 15 years old. While in this liminal in-between space of summer where one formative experience had concluded and one had not yet begun, little did I know an interesting and impassioned debate was raging among clergy. It revolved around this idea of a growing population of people in this country who identify or resonate with the idea of being spiritual but not religious. I think many of us have heard this term before or can, to some degree, understand it by just the words or relate to it personally. Spiritual but not religious individuals might be classified as being interested or engaged in spirituality or spiritual practices or self-reflection, but find religion, which sometimes accurately or not is described as organized, as in organized religion, to be not of particular interest to them. Regardless, whether this resistance to religion is just a not my cup of tea sort of response on the one hand, or a no chance in hell sentiment on the other, some religious professionals have debated heavily the choice of individuals to not also freely associate with religious communities or institutions. Probably the most famous of these critiques of the SBNR community was made by the Reverend Dr. Lillian Daniel, who is a minister in the United Church of Christ denomination. In 2011, in that same summer of my transition from college to seminary, she wrote an article based on a recent sermon she delivered a few months prior. Her article was published in the Christian Century, and a different version, a more popular read version on similar themes in the Huffington Post. A few years later, this argument expanded into a book titled When Spiritual But Not Religious Is Not Enough, Seeing God in Surprising Places, Even the Church. Now, the purpose of this sermon today is not to relitigate whether Daniel was right or wrong, or the debate that ensued had a winner or a loser, but to acknowledge that this idea that some people want spirituality without religion, whatever that means, was a living question at the time I was entering seminary 15 years ago, and one that still lives on today. What interests me is not whether spirituality or philosophy or morality without institutional grounding is sufficient or mature or legitimate. I believe it is. Rather, I'm interested in what is longed for in the individual that is nevertheless absent from an SBNR's experience of organized institutional religion. This gap, the separation between the beliefs one may hold or the values they may live by and the spaces in which they inhabit or choose not to, is worth exploring briefly. To borrow a popular image from the Christian Bible, the solution to providing meaningful space for encounter, learning, connection, and transformation may not be related to either the wine or the wineskin at all. You might be familiar with the story or the stories from the Synoptic Gospels. That's from the books of Matthew, Mark, and Luke specifically, who all say something similar that goes something like, no one puts new wine in old wineskins, but rather new wine must be put into fresh wineskins. Have you heard that? Maybe. Which, as an oversimplified metaphor for spirituality and religion, says, well, we got four options. We can put new wine in new wineskins. We can put new wine in old wineskins. And then two other options. The text kind of brushes over by not saying it, but should be still named. We could, I suppose, put old wine in old wineskins, or finally, old wine in new wineskins. Okay, the goal here is to not confuse you all, which this might start sounding like a probability or a statistics quiz of some kind, but to suggest in this framework, this 2x2 frame, one might consider the ultimate solution to this whole idea of finding our place in the world is simply to just address either the wine, spirituality or philosophy or beliefs, or the wineskin, the institution or the community, or maybe both metaphors in some way. But I think this misses the point entirely. Simply put, I think the issue is that some people just don't like wine. Or possibly don't drink alcohol at all. And at the same time, while we all have different tastes, all of us intuitively understand the need to carry something. A container, a backpack, a water bottle. But if the container is named for what it always held, a wineskin, for example, wine, then it will never matter whether the wine is new or old, or the wineskin is new or old. It's not just going to work for some of us. This brings me to what I believe we can look at and work on together. This space, this sanctuary, this container in which we are meeting right now is something that we can and are shaping by our presence and activity in it. The Unitarian Universalist value of pluralism, which we talked a lot about last week and over time, sort of addresses, or at least tries to address or set in motion, in my mind, to a large extent, the question of the wine. Not, as I argued last week, that UUs can just believe whatever they want, but rather that we bring with us to this space, as the value articulates, a diversity of cultures, experiences, and theologies. In other words, beverages. This space, then, is the area, the container, the refrigerator, the shelf that can be really shaped in such a way that we can hold, perhaps, all of this diversity, all of these experiences, that perhaps we can hold all of you in all of your cultural identities and diverse experiences, and even in your own and clearly our collective contradicting views about the world. This is tough stuff, this fostering a community of pluralism, this moving beyond the wineskin, so to speak. For as I've said on many occasions, nothing alone, not a single community or sanctuary, no parable or text, no water bottle or coffee cup, alas, can contain or fully hold or arrogantly capture all of truth and meaning. Rather, we here in this community do our best to be a space that is welcoming and loving, agile and ever transforming, one that can become the space you've always wondered existed and are glad to have found it, including, not least, perhaps on this Sunday morning. Here's what we know. Each of us came here, whether this is our first Sunday or we've been coming for decades, because we are looking for something. I've stated plainly that I hope it's not answers from the minister, because I have very few. Like you, I have a lot of questions about life, and together we can ponder these questions in community. Rather, and I think more accurately, we gather in this space because we are looking for a type of connection, a quality of connection, a certain kind of community that we are not quite sure exists, or even can exist, at least in this corner of the world. Many of you I have heard share these sentiments. I didn't know this kind of community existed here in Columbus. Or more existentially, I didn't know this type of community existed at all. Think about it. Before coming to UUCCI, would you have believed it, and you hadn't heard about UU somewhere else or some other kind of similar community, that a whole community could exist centered not on shared belief, but on shared values for living moral and ethical lives? A space where the religion is defined not by a creed, but by how we care for one another and the world. If we told you, hey, there's this place in Bartholomew County that affirms your inherent worthiness and dignity, that celebrates your unique journey and the particular thread that you follow, that encourages you to live your life not dictated by a single text or teacher or tradition, would you have believed it? Ultimately, that leads me to say what I think many of us have come to realize, which is that, like we discussed last week, Unitarian Universalism is hard to describe in an elevator speech. The elevator, after all, is its own type of container, its own possibly claustrophobic wineskin. For many, a much better option when trying to describe UU or UUCCI is to just invite someone to just come along and see it for themselves. To come here on a Sunday morning for service or a program or event throughout the week and to experience what this special place is and what it is trying to become on the journey ahead. Just as each of you is on your own journey of self-determination, as Mary Oliver so beautifully writes in our reading this morning, our congregation is learning to do the really hard work of not seeking organizational wineskin validation from external sources. We've for some time been that community which represents a wide variety of beliefs, eclectic worldviews, wine, or should I say beverages of all types. We've been a spiritually and philosophically diverse community really since our founding, and clearly in our partnerships with other religious communities. And while we are doing better to recognize those diverse cultures, experiences, and theologies, or worldviews, that's not really our institutional challenge. I think more so as you each, as we all are concocting new, delicious, soul-quenching drinks to share here, we are coming to further allow ourselves the risk of true collective self-recognition of what we want this container, this building, this campus, this life together to be. Back to Mary Oliver, to bring her words back into this conversation, I want to say our reading again. She says, and think of it both for you and for us together. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt that old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. This ending, for some readers and lovers of Mary Oliver, can feel like it turns quite quickly and soberly to the life-saving nature of finding our voice and place in the world. It's kind of like, whoa, that was a lot to save the only life you can save. But I do believe she is correct when she says that when we come to learn how to turn down the volume of the external voices in life, not turn them off, not turn all of them off, but to a more appropriate volume for most, we can hear our experiences or experience our own voice and power, our own longings for the type of life we each want to live. When we learn to march to the beat of our own drum, we need not revert or glorify some rugged individualism, but rather we can come to mend our own lives and choose to enter into relationships with others gathered around values and principles for living, and work stitch by stitch and day by day to mend the world with the love that holds all of us, and this together. That thread that stitches us as individuals together in a beautiful tapestry that threads and holds along our journey, that we thread and hold us along our journey through life is a thread that indeed we each follow. It is not predetermined, nor are ours alone. For we are relational beings, longing to be seen and loved just as we are. This space, this community, aims to be one of those spaces where your beliefs are not checked at the door, just as your cultures, experiences, and journeys are not questioned on arrival. Whether the spiritual but not religious is your language ultimately to talk about yourself, or perhaps you aren't spiritual at all in a traditional sense, but you love a good community regardless. Who doesn't love a good container? And you see the need for it, like the box store, the container store, whatever it's called. Love a good container. And I hope that this space or beloved community can be one of many that grows and changes with you, that transforms and blooms to allow for new beauty and possibilities that are already manifest within you, beside you, before, behind you, and towards the welcome invitation to those not yet part, not yet even considering that this might be a community for them. May we be so bold as to reimagine and build this type of community, and to be even bolder to imagine ourselves being part of it. May we lean on one another, friends old and new, and together raise our voices in love and joy for what we have already built for 59 years, what we have already built, even as it continues to transform with each and every passing day. May it be so, and amen.